Okay, thank you. Good morning, dear participants of ICCSAL, the third International Conference on Cultural Studies and Applied Linguistics. Today, we are going to deliver an article entitled The Implementation of Adaptation, Imitation, and Modification, or AIM in English for Specific Purposes courses. This article is written by Ahmad Munir with Eva Savitri, Asrori, and also Chakim. The three backgrounds of the research is that in-service teachers imitating other teachers with evidence-based practices, or EBP. And the second one is modeling in learning technology courses for pre-service teachers can strengthen the experience of pre-service teacher students in using technology. And the third is no study reviews, where the pre-service English teachers have learned, imitate, adapt, or modify knowledge and skills from one course into what is AIM? AIM, or English versions of adaptasi, tiru, and modifikasi. Adaptation, imitation, and modification, AIM, embedded in teacher training mode. In adaptation, the trainee is expected to adapt the theory from expert by applying it in his own context. In imitation, the trainee must observe the experts and imitate what the experts do. And in modification, trainee must reflect on his experience with the experts, also reflect on his experience of applying the knowledge gained during training and modifying it for improvement in application. Next is going to be delivered by my colleague.
Yeah, so this research is basically focuses on ESP courses and related courses. So ESP courses is conducted in semester 5. There are some subjects inside it. We have ESP program design, ESP materials development, ESP assessment, ESP course management, and ESP vocabulary building. These courses, these ESP courses are actually related to the courses we have in previous semester. So in semester 4, we have syllabus design, developing EFL materials, and ELT assessment. There are 16 knowledge and skills learned in syllabus design and developing EFL materials courses. The first is developing school English syllabus. And then second one, differentiating school English syllabus and school English lesson plan. The third is knowing the core components of the school's English syllabus. Number 4, explaining the definition of basic competencies and indicators. 5, writing down the indicators of the given basic competencies. 6, determining the right teaching materials according to the indicator formulation. 7, determining the right assessment according to the indicators. 8, writing down the steps of English learning activities. 9, explaining the principle of developing school English materials. 10, explaining the framework for developing spoken and written English materials. 11, explaining the difference between teaching materials and assessment. 12, knowing that the main teaching materials is the type of text that is in the basic competency. And 13, knowing that teaching materials must be designed to achieve learning indicators or objectives. There are still 3 more. Developing school spoken English teaching materials, developing school written English teaching materials, and exploiting and exploring text models into tasks in teaching materials. The knowledge and skills above are presumed to be adapted, imitated, and modified in the learning process in ESP program design and ESP material development courses. This is logically the normal things to happen because we think that what the students have learned in previous semesters are used in almost similar courses in the next semester. But unfortunately, it has not been empirically proven. That's why we have aimed for this research, that is to explain how ESP program design and ESP materials development students adapt, imitate, and modify the knowledge and skills acquired in previous semester courses, that is syllabus design course, into the process of acquiring knowledge and skills in ESP program design and ESP materials development courses. Yes, the next one will be presented by Pak Hakim.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Bu Wiwit. Now let me explain about the method that was used in conducting the research. Here we employ a semi-open questionnaire asking whether the 16 skills learned in the syllabus design and developing EFL materials courses were adapted or imitated or modified when they took the ESP program design and ESP materials development courses. So there were 54 respondents were asked during the distributing the semi-open questionnaire here. And then we also conduct focus group discussion attended by 15 students. And here in this method, we employ quantitative and qualitative data analysis. And here, let me explain about the knowledge and skills covered in AIM. As you see that here on the right side, those are the the mostly used strategy, whether it is adapted or modified or others. Let me explain one by one for the knowledge and skills. Let me mention one by one. The first is developing school English syllabus, and the second knowledge and skills is different sharing between school English syllabus and school English lesson plans. And the third is knowing the core components of the school's English syllabus. And then number 4, explain the definition of basic competencies and indicators. Number 5, writing down the indicators of the given basic competencies. 6, determining the right teaching material according to the indicator formulation. And next, determining the right assessment according to the indicators. And number 8, writing down the steps of English learning activities. Next slide. Number 9, the skills in AIM is explaining the principles of developing school English materials, explaining the framework for developing spoken and written English and written English materials, explaining the difference between teaching materials and assessment, knowing that the main teaching material is the type of text that is in basic competency, knowing that teaching materials must be designed to achieve learning indicators or objectives. And then number 14, developing spoken English teaching materials, developing school written English teaching materials, and the last, exploiting and exploring text models into text in teaching materials. So the total is there are 16 skills and knowledge covered in AIM.
Yes, thank you.
Pak Hakim.
The 13 knowledge and skills that are adapted with the A marked over there in the right column are related to the prescribed curriculum, syllabus, and the supporting unit from Indonesian Ministry of Education. So imitation is not employed. You can see in the table there is no I at all, because in doing imitation they would prevent doing imitation would prevent them from designing appropriate ESP program and ESP materials. Why? Because the pattern of the curriculum is rigid and the language use is very formal in Bahasa Indonesia. Therefore the features cannot be just taken away when they are used in ESP. Instead, they employ adaptation. In the adaptation, they adjust slightly what they have learned in syllabus design and developing EFL materials, which focus on high school context into new context. What is that? Into ESP context, English for occupational purposes. This indicates that most students in our study, the 54 and also the 15, maintain and apply knowledge and skills they have learned in 2 previous courses in the 2 later courses. For them, as long as the skills are workable to do the ESP task, they would not modify the skill. In the table, you also see 2 knowledge and skills employed in ESP by adaptation or modification. Skills and knowledge number 14 and 16, development school spoken English teaching material, and exploring text models into tasks in teaching materials. So the modification is used in skill number 1, 2 in the table, developing ESP syllabus. So the reasons were that they use English in the learning objective and indicator formulation of ESP program syllabus. So they need to, modify their previous experience on developing indicators in Bahasa Indonesia into developing indicators and objectives in English in the ESP program design and materials development. Examples of how students conducted AIM in ESP course design and ESP materials development. Students A's example, for example, in syllabus design course, the development of learning objective was based on the basic competency or KD prescribed by the Ministry of Education, using the action verbs from Bloom's taxonomy. Student A first check the action verbs of the basic competency with cognitive domain C1, C2, C3, and so on. Knowing the cognitive level, the students develop indicators using action verbs. So in this case, in the ESP program design, they have to do modification. Why? Because in the ESP program design, in ESP material development, the indicators were not based on the prescribed basic competencies, but the indicators are based on the needs analysis. So they did not have to check the cognitive meaning of the action verb, because from the needs analysis, the verbs are exactly what the targeted learners need. So in conclusion, the ESP students have the ability to adapt and modify the skills they learn in syllabus design and development, developing ESP materials into ESP programs and ESP materials development. They do so using their own creative ways with the purpose of making the ESP learning successful. And we know that students can tackle difficulties to adjust the skills so that they are able to do adaptation and modification accordingly. So thank you for your participation. We welcome feedbacks and questions.
Okay, thank you very much, sir, on our presentation. We are waiting for the question and
Thank you, everyone. We welcome